Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going deep, really deep, into something fundamental. We're looking at how our core beliefs, the very ideas we hold, actually shape, well, everything that happens in a nation.
Exactly. We're exploring how abstract thoughts translate into sometimes really devastating real-world outcomes.
And we're using a specific model for this, right? A kind of map.
Yeah, it's often visualized as a belief tree. Think of it like that. It helps map how these deep philosophical roots ultimately produce the results we see all around us nationally.
Okay, a belief tree. Let's break that down. So, like any tree, it starts underground with the roots.
Correct. The roots. That's the absolute foundation. Your worldview, your basic beliefs, answers to the big questions like why are we here, what's real, that sort of thing.
Got it. And growing out of those hidden roots.
That's the trunk. This represents the value system, the principles that logically flow from that root worldview, what you hold dear, what you think is important.
Okay, roots are beliefs, trunk is values, which leads to the visible part.
The branches, yeah. These are our decisions, our behaviors, the collective actions and habits you see in a society day to day.
And finally, the end result, the fruit.
Exactly. The fruit. That's the national consequence. The statistics, the headlines, the prosperity, the poverty, the crises, what everyone can see and measure.
Interesting. So for this deep dive, we're actually going to work backward.
That's the plan. We start with the shocking outcome, the fruit. And we're going to dig down layer by layer to uncover the hidden roots that are, well, causing it all.
Before we get to the national level crisis, though, the source material gives us a really personal starting point. It uses someone's own experiences to show how worldviews can actually shift.
Right. It highlights three key moments. The first was a spiritual awakening around 14. But the second one, during college, seems like a real jolt. A trip to Mexico City.
Yeah, tell us about that. It sounds like it was pretty impactful.
Oh, definitely. The description is vivid, seeing extreme poverty, but not just poverty.
Yeah.
People literally living on garbage dumps. Homes made from, cardboard scraps and old tires. And kids. Kids playing and scavenging in that refuse. The source says it just, quote, broke my heart. It shattered the kind of comfortable reality they'd known.
That's intense. And then there was a third moment, later on, more intellectual this time.
Yes. At the Labrie Fellowship, a direct challenge to the way belief itself was understood. Someone posed the idea, Christianity is true even if you don't believe it.
Huh. So shifting from I believe it so it's true for me to
It is objectively true whether you accept it or not, because God exists, independent of our opinion, and realizing that really highlighted a common problem, this idea of the dualistic box.
the two mental boxes. Explain that. Why do we do this?
Yeah.
Why compartmentalize so much, especially in, say, Western societies?
Well, it seems practical, doesn't it, on the surface? It lets you navigate two different worlds without too much friction.
So box one is
Box one is the secular box. School, university, work, culture. The operating system here is basically Darwinism, naturalism. No creator assumed. It's the world of logic, science, career advancement, economics, as commonly understood.
okay, that's where most people live Monday to Friday, maybe?
Pretty much. And then you have box two, the religious box. This is for Sunday, maybe a prayer meeting, Bible study. It's where your spiritual beliefs live, 4:30 a.m., prayer, church doctrines.
Right.
The problem, the core issue, is that people jump between these boxes. They don't synthesize them. They operate out of box one at work, begin decisions based on secular values, and then jump into box two on Sunday. But the two rarely connect.
But isn't some separation necessary? Like if I'm a scientist, does my Sunday faith really dictate how I conduct an experiment?
It absolutely should dictate your why, your ethics, your integrity, your motivation, your ultimate purpose. See, if box one is your only functional worldview, no creator, just material reality, then success inevitably becomes just about personal achievement, status, money.
Right, okay, I see that.
If your faith isn't integrated, it gets contained. It doesn't actually inform your life in the world. The source argues this dualism makes individuals ineffective in shaping the culture because their deepest beliefs are walled off.
Right, ineffective, personally. And that leads us to how this plays out on a bigger scale, the international case study you mentioned, Haiti versus the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast. Haiti, for 50 years, huge amounts of international aid, countless missionaries, charities pouring in resources. And yet the situation remains largely unchanged. Deep poverty, corruption, instability, violence. The external resources are there, but the fruit doesn't change.
Okay, so compare that with this valley in the Dominican Republic, Constanza, described as basically paradise, agriculturally speaking.
Absolutely. Fertile soil, great climate, water. Anything could grow there. But the local people, They were poor.
What with all that potential?
Their mindset, it was pure fatalism, a really destructive value rooted in a faulty worldview. The source says their collective thinking was, we're born poor, we're going to die poor, our grandparents were poor, there's nothing we can do. They had paradise, but lived in poverty because of what they believed.
Wow. Okay, so belief trumped resources. Then the Japanese immigrants arrived.
Yes, after World War II,
Hmm.
they came with literally nothing. Lost everything in the war, no money, no connections.
And in the same valley.
The exact same valley. And within just 2 years, they were thriving, farming successfully, building businesses, a complete turnaround.
So it wasn't the soil, wasn't the rain, wasn't external aid.
It was the internal programming, their value system, the trunk of their belief tree. They brought with them the value of Gamber.
Gamber, what does that mean?
It means overcome, try harder, never give up. It's about diligence, perseverance, taking responsibility. It directly countered the local fatalism.
So the takeaway's huge. Poverty isn't just about lack of stuff or lack of smarts. It's fundamentally about attitude mindset.
Exactly. You need a mental shift, a worldview shift to break out of that box.
Okay, so if a mindset can create prosperity or poverty in one valley, what happens when a whole nation, a wealthy, developed nation, adopts a destructive mindset? This brings us to the really shocking part, the main consequence we're examining today: South Korea.
Yeah. The analysis uses strong language. National suicide. It's a demographic crisis, and it's described as completely unprecedented globally.
Yeah.
South Korea has the world's worst population crisis.
Let's get the numbers because they're just stark. The current fertility rate,
It's an almost unbelievable 0.72,
0.72.
and projections show it dropping to 0.65 next year. Just think about that. You need 2.13 just to keep the population stable.
2.13.
And history shows that once the industrialized nation drops below 1.3, no country has ever recovered from that, ever. Incheon, a major city, is at 0.66.
So when they say it's like the Titanic hitting an iceberg, a death spiral, that's not really hyperbole, is it?
Not statistically, no. It's a demographic reality unfolding right now.
And it's not happening in a vacuum. The sources point out this is tied to another grim statistic: the highest suicide rate among industrialized nations. Something like 38 people every single day.
That's right. The demographic death and the individual despair are running in parallel. That's the fruit we're seeing.
Okay, so that's the devastating fruit. Now let's move back up the tree to the branches. What are the actual behaviors, the collective decisions people are making that lead to this?
Well, obviously people are choosing not to marry or choosing not to have children if they do marry. But it's the reasons behind those choices that form the branches.
Right. What are those reasons?
A big one is fear of career disruption, prioritizing work, promotions, staying employed over starting or growing a family. There's also this intense focus on pursuing a comfortable, abundant, very materialistic lifestyle.
So kids are seen as interfering with that.
Yeah, or as a burden. And tied to that is a sort of refusal of personal responsibility for raising them. An expectation almost that the government should handle it, should make it easy.
And you mentioned this focus on self, investing in degrees, licenses, personal development, almost instead of family.
Exactly. It's massive self-investment. Meanwhile, the media often promotes living alone, being independent. Children, if they appear at all, are sometimes treated almost like accessories for social media, not a core life commitment.
Okay, those are the behaviors, the branches. Now let's look at the trunk, the underlying values driving these actions. What did the analysis find there?
It's pretty clear. First, overwhelming self-focus.
Yeah.
Not healthy self-awareness, but self-centeredness. Prioritizing me, my comfort, my career, my fulfillment over community, family, or the next generation.
Which feeds right into the second value.
Materialism. Yes. Money, career, status are the ultimate goals.
Mm-hmm.
Children are then evaluated through that lens. Are they affordable? Will they hinder my career? Do
Yeah.
they fit my desired lifestyle? They become economic calculations rather than blessings or, part of a bigger purpose.
And this is made worse by the culture itself. You mentioned a performance culture.
The suffocating one, yeah. Constant comparison, constant competition. Your value is measured by numbers. Your salary, your apartment size, your kid's grades, your job title, everything is ranked. Superiority is the goal.
And that pressure, you can see how that connects both to not wanting the burden of children and also to the incredibly high suicide rate if you don't measure up.
Exactly. Failure in that system feels absolute, potentially fatal.
Hmm.
Then there's presentism,
Presentism.
focusing entirely on the now, prioritizing immediate gratification, present enjoyment. Think YOLO. You only live once, or work-life balance, pushed to an extreme where any sacrifice for the future, especially the demanding sacrifice of raising kids, is rejected. Why defer gratification?
And finally, a sense that life itself, or maybe the commitment of parenting, isn't taken that seriously.
Yeah, kind of lightness, a lack of gravity about these huge life decisions.
Wow. And the analysis even noted that churches aren't immune. They often reflect these same values.
That was a key observation. Churches being largely silent on the birth rate crisis, investing heavily inward buildings, programs for current members, but not necessarily prioritizing, say, Sunday school or raising the next generation as a core mission. They mirror the society's self-focus.
The dualistic box is still operating, separating Sunday belief from Monday to Saturday values.
It seems so.
All right, fruit. National suicide, branches, self-centered behaviors, trunk. Materialistic, performance-driven values. Now for the hardest part. The roots. What is the fundamental belief system, the core worship, generating all this?
Well, historically, you have to look at Confucianism. That provided the deep roots for centuries, especially values like Nam-Yobi, male superiority, emphasis on hierarchy, lineage.
Right.
Then the gospel arrived, a powerful force, but often it was primarily presented as the gospel of salvation.
Okay, define that again, the Genesis 3 gospel.
It's the story starting with the fall in Genesis 3. Humans sinned, need redemption through Christ, leading ultimately to heaven. It focuses heavily on individual sin and escaping judgment. Vitally important, of course.
But limited.
But limited because it didn't always fully challenge the existing cultural roots. You could accept Jesus for personal salvation, but keep the Confucian social framework largely intact. That created the dualism right there. The gospel only went this deep, addressing the soul, but not necessarily transforming the whole view of life and society.
So as Confucianism faded over time, what filled that root-level vacuum? It wasn't a fully integrated biblical worldview.
Apparently not for many. Instead, new, often secular root systems took hold, and they were the ones feeding the current crisis.
What are they?
It's described as a mix. First, postmodernism, the rejection of absolute truth. If there's no objective truth, then my personal feelings, my pursuit of happiness, my self-defined goals become the ultimate reality.
Okay, my truth.
Exactly. Second, a powerful blend of mammonism and humanism.
Mammonism is the worship of wealth, right?
Wow.
Humanism.
Humanism puts humanity at the center. We are the measure of all things. We are the lawgivers. In a sense, we become our own gods. And mammonism provides the content for that worship. The highest expression of this self-god is achieving material success, wealth, status.
So you worship yourself by getting rich and successful.
That's the functional outcome, yeah. And then there's often still an undercurrent, an overlay of folk religion or shamanism.
How does that fit in?
God, or spiritual forces, are sometimes viewed transactionally, like a cosmic vending machine or a magic genie. The goal is to get blessings, success, good fortune for me. This reinforces that performance culture you have to achieve. You have to appease the forces. You need something superior like good grades, wealth, to offer.
So the devastating conclusion is the nation is suffering because the underlying operating system, the root worldview for many, is this mix of self-worship, materialism, and transactional spirituality.
Yes. The source puts it bluntly. You have masses of people who are basically materialists who happen to go to church on Sunday. Their functional worldview, the one driving their major life decisions, is rooted in mammon and self, regardless of religious affiliation.
It's a clear but terrifying line. Toxic worldview leads to distorted values, which drive self-destructive behavior, resulting in national suicide.
Precisely. And the solution offered isn't more government programs or economic fixes. Those treat the symptoms, the fruit. The fundamental need is a root replacement.
And the sources argue strongly that this replacement has to start not with Genesis 3, the fall, but way back in Genesis 1. Why is that shift so crucial?
Because Genesis 1 gives us the creation mandate. It tells us why we're here in the first place. Created in the imago Dei, the image is God. Tasked to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and steward, exercise responsible dominion.
So it's not primarily about escaping a fallen world to get to heaven.
It's about living for God's kingdom now, in this world. It reframes everything. Children aren't liabilities. They are central to fulfilling the mandate, extending God's image. Family isn't a lifestyle choice. It's a core calling. It replaces self-centered values with kingdom purpose.
This whole analysis, it's more than just interesting ideas, isn't it? It demands a response, maybe even an emotional one.
Absolutely. The source suggests that if you've followed this chain from the demographic death spiral down to these flawed roots of worship, and you don't feel shocked or disturbed or maybe even angry?
Then you might still be stuck in that dualistic box yourself. Your head gets it, but your heart hasn't really connected.
That's the challenge, yes. The intellectual understanding is separate from the deep gut-level conviction.
So the final thought we want to leave you with is this. What would it actually take for you in how you view your career, your money, your time, your commitments, your own family or future family to truly move beyond just the Genesis 3 fire insurance gospel and embrace the full, demanding, life-giving scope of God's kingdom laid out right from Genesis 1?
It's something to really wrestle with. Don't just file it away. Let it sit with you, maybe even keep you up tonight thinking about it.
We hope this deep dive has given you plenty to consider. We'll see you next time.